I complimented my coworker's accent and almost got fired for xenophobia. I told Dimitri his pronunciation of aluminum was interesting, and 30 minutes later, I was sitting in HR facing a termination hearing. I had zero clue what was happening, because we were literally just talking about the supply order, and I thought we were having a normal conversation. Do you understand the severity of mocking someone's national origin? Karen from HR asked while looking at me like I'd burned a cross on someone's lawn. Dimitri is from Russia and speaks English with an accent, and apparently my manager Rachel overheard me say interesting and decided I was xenophobic, which is absolutely insane because I genuinely thought aluminum being 4 syllables instead of 3 was cool. I wasn't mocking anything. I started. But Rachel cut me off. I heard what you said, and your intent doesn't matter when the impact is discrimination, she said while her hands were literally shaking with rage. They called the district manager, who showed up looking like he was ready to personally escort me out. In my 15 years managing this company, I've never seen such blatant harassment of an immigrant employee, he said in this cold voice that made my stomach drop. I tried explaining that Dimitri and I talk all the time, and I was genuinely interested in linguistic differences. But Karen interrupted saying that microaggressions are still aggression regardless of my claimed intentions. My supervisor, Janet, showed up looking absolutely gutted. She wouldn't make eye contact with me and kept saying she never thought I was that kind of person. They started talking about mandatory diversity training and immediate termination and possibly reporting this to corporate because immigrant employees deserve to feel safe at work. The district manager mentioned how they'd spent years building an inclusive culture and how one bigot could destroy all that progress. Nobody would let me speak. Nobody would listen to anything I said. The door opened and Dimitri walked in looking genuinely confused about why he was there. We wanted you present for this conversation so you can express how her comments made you feel, Karen said in this gentle voice like Dimitri might break. Dimitri looked around at everyone's serious faces and then at me. Why does everyone look like someone has died? He asked. Rachel leaned forward and explained that I'd mocked his accent by calling it interesting in a condescending way. Dimitri stared at her for a solid 5 seconds. She said my pronunciation was interesting. He said slowly like he was talking to children. That is compliment. We were discussing the word aluminum. Why is this a problem? The room went dead silent. Karen started explaining how commenting on accents creates hostile work environments, and Dimitri held up his hand. So, you heard someone say interesting and immediately thought the Russian guy must be offended, he asked while looking at each person. That is actually pretty xenophobic that you assumed I am so sensitive. The district manager tried to say he was protecting him from discrimination. And Dimitri asked why he would need protection from a compliment about linguistics. Why do you think I am so weak that normal conversation would hurt me? He asked Karen directly, and she looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Dimitri turned to Rachel and said, also, you are the only person in this room who said I speak with an accent, like it is a flaw. I just call it speaking. Dimitri looked at me and said, you want to get lunch? I grabbed my bag and followed him toward the door. Right before we left, Dimitri turned back and said in this exaggerated theatrical Russian accent, your help protecting me from compliments has been very interesting, while looking directly at Karen. Then he looked at me and I said, extremely interesting. Back at him in the same tone. We both started laughing and walked out while every manager in that room looked like they wanted the floor to swallow.